Hello again, everybody. Ben Joravsky here. We're calling this Identity Crisis Friday, and here's why. Governor JB Pritzker is standing by. Yes, that man, Governor JB Pritzker. We were just reminiscing. I've known this guy since 1998, ladies and gentlemen. I think it was 98. I first interviewed him when he was a young candidate for Congress, and he goes, Ben, I was not your first choice. This guy never forgets how I voted when he's on the ballot. He's like an elephant with that memory. Ben, you didn't vote for me. You voted for Jan Schakowsky. I don't even think I lived in the district back in 1998, but whatever. I probably would have voted for Jan Schakowsky, Evanston state rep at the time. Anyway, JB Pritzker is nice enough to come on. I think I want to shout out to Alex, the press aide, who helped set it up. Thank you very much, Alex. I think TC, my good friend Terry Cosgrove, may have something to do with this. So thank you, TC. Before I bring on JB, where he will use my show to announce that whether he's running for president or not, because he said, Ben, I'd rather do it on your show than The View, which I really appreciate, JB. Thank you very much for holding that off. You know, you told Whoopi, I got to do it for Ben, all right? I've known him since 1998. I'm going to talk about something that will relate to some of the topics that the governor and I will be discussing. We're going to talk national politics and local politics. We'll see how far we get in this conversation if we run out of time. This has to do with an article that I just ran in the New York Times. I'm going to show the governor, the actual newspaper. Yes, I still read newspapers, Governor. It's a funny, guys, this is to my beloved media and to my beloved Democrats. Your attempts to discern a difference between Democratic candidates and then fit them into the appropriate, what you consider appropriate box that you want to put them in so that you could send a message as to who they are, just with one phrase, is coming to the point of comical. It's like a parody of itself. This is in the New York Times. I don't know this gentleman. Tim Balk is his name. He's a writer. I have no idea who he is. So I'm sure he's a great guy. But this was his attempt. So there was a Democratic primary in the state of Arizona. I think it was Tuesday. And for the rights to go up against a former football player, I'm not making this up, Jay Freely, he's a Republican nominee, to win a district that's very winnable for the Democrats. So JB and I will be talking about stuff like this, like winnable districts, flipping Republican districts to Democrats. Okay, so it's a winnable district. It went Republican in 2024, but the voters also voted for JB Pritzker. Wow, what a Freudian slip. They also voted for Joe Biden, Kamala Harris. Ben, get it together. So it's a very winnable district for the Democrats. And it was a battle between a doctor who's actually from Chicago, originally born and raised in Chicago, Amish Shah. And he was running against a candidate, Galan Woods, who was supported by Hakeem Jeffries and the congressional leadership in Washington. So they had to figure a way to distinguish one from the other. And I will now read to you the lead, ladies and gentlemen. This is the lead. Dr. Amish Shah, or Amish Shah, a moderate Democrat, one more time, a moderate Democrat, won a House primary in a battleground Arizona district on Wednesday, according to the Associated Press, defeating a centrist candidate supported by House Democrat campaign arm. Ladies and gentlemen, you tell me, I've been following politics since the late 1960s, when J.B. Pritzker was just a little lad. What is the difference between a moderate and a centrist? I'm sorry, Tim Balak. I don't know if you wrote that or some editor put that in there. There is no discernible difference on any issue between a moderate and a centrist, okay? Most moderates I know want to be known as centrists. Most centrists I know want to be known as moderates. They're all liberals to me because I'm an old lefty. They're all liberals. It's just, but nobody wants to be known as a liberal anymore because Ronald Reagan turned into a bad term. So Democrats, always afraid of their shadows, run the other way. There is no difference. What you're trying to say is you're trying to make some kind of meaningful distinction. Like you're trying to put one in a box that like they're, I don't know, a Mamdani Democrat as opposed to a Schumer Democrat. That's what you're trying to do, New York Times. But they're both moderates. They don't fit those categories. You got to think outside the box. And, here's the funny thing. When I read this, I was laughing out loud because when the Republican hit machine is done, all of these Democrats will be communists. They're not. You think the Republicans are going to distinguish between a quote unquote moderate Democrat and a centrist Democrat. About the only thing that Pete Buttigieg and I agreed on back in 2019 when he ran for president is when he said at the debate, and I know, JB, you were watching because you're probably one of the 10 people in Chicago who was watching that debate. He said, folks, they're all going to slam us as socialists, no matter what we say. I think he was talking to Amy Klobuchar, who's trying to distinguish her health care package from Bernie Sanders for fear that she would be slammed as a radical. And he was like, just stick with what you believe. If you're waiting for the other side, like approval from the other side, you're never going to get it. So if JB Pritzker wants to run for president of the United States, here's my advice to him. He's sitting right here. You can't expect the Republicans to distinguish you from AOC. You can't expect them to distinguish you from Bernie Sanders, my beloved Bernie. They're going to treat you exactly the same way. Anyway, I'm done ranting and railing. I'm going to bring on JB Pritzker. Welcome back, JB.
How you doing? Great to be back with you, Ben. It's been a little while.
Yes, it's been. I know you're an Eagles fan, but I'm going to quote Led Zeppelin. It's been a long, long time. That's an old Led Zeppelin song. So before you announce whether you're running for president or not, just weigh in on my opening riff, which you did not know was coming. So this is totally improv on your part. Go ahead.
No, it's 100% right. I mean, I'm experiencing it even now as governor that, the Republicans, I mean, they're not, they're going to call you a socialist or a communist, no matter what. And of course, we, unfortunately, Democrats have not been strong enough to push back. We're in my view, nationally, it's been the divide in the Democratic Party has been sort of team fight versus team cave. And there are honestly fewer people on team fight than team cave. And that's disturbing to me. And so, we get called all kinds of things. I mean, that doesn't make it accurate in any way. Look, you know what people want? They actually don't care what your ideology is, in my view. I mean, there's some group of people that do. What they really want is for you to address the problems that they're facing, right? And I'm talking about if you can't pay your electric bill and you can't pay your rent, and you can't get a job. I mean, these are things people really, they need you to address if you're in public office or you're running for public office. And what they don't need to hear is about a whole bunch of extraneous things that have nothing to do with what's really bothering them in this moment. And the Republicans are great at distracting, just terrific at it. They'll talk about bathrooms. They'll talk about anything except the pain that people are going through, especially pain that people are experiencing under this president. Yeah. And so I get that all the time. And of course, I'm running against, what do you call him? DB,
yeah.
Darren Bailey, who's just echoing all of that and just the distraction and the trying to convince people that he really cares about them when, this is the guy who runs a school that teaches people that slaveholders were good to their slaves and that, that women in the workforce are bad for America. Those are real things they're trying to push on the other side. And yet they're saying, no, we're the bad guys on the Democratic side. Why? Because guess what? We want to raise the minimum wage. We want to actually have health care for everybody. They think that's socialist. That's not socialist. That's not communist. That's addressing the problems that real people have.
Yeah. Well, I could argue whether it's socialist. It's definitely not communist. But I do not want to have an argument in which the MAGA propagandists have set the terms of the argument. It's a waste of time, if you follow what I'm saying. And so I don't want to waste my time spinning my wheels on that stuff.
Let me just ask you, though, don't you think, look, the reason I'm a Democrat, I think probably the reason that you voted for Democrats is because our party is the party that stands up for working people. Like we're the party that stands up for the most vulnerable, the middle class. And, that all I'm saying is whatever you want to call individuals' ideology, if you're addressing those issues, you're a Democrat. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what Democrats all have in common. And we have to stand it up and point at the other side and say, what are they doing to provide health care for people or to put more money in their pockets at work, to let them bargain for a better wage, those are all things that we stand for, that they stand against. We need to be real clear about it, and we need to be team fight.
All right. Well, I'm gonna tell you right now, really fast. I'm a Democrat. I'm a lifelong Democrat. I don't play around. I'm always screaming and mad at the Democrats. I'm always yelling at the Democrats. I'm always calling them out for selling out. But I could be nothing in our political system. That's who I am. I inherited from my mom. May she rest in peace. I'm tearing up just thinking about her. She was a depression kid, growing up in Philly, JB, in a dirt poor family, and all they knew was that Roosevelt. They had a picture of Roosevelt on the wall. Okay, Roosevelt saved them from the Depression, and my mother passed that to me, and I've passed it to my kids, that we look to the Democratic Party, and more often than not, like Doc Rivers said regarding Black people in America, we love them, but they don't love us back. And so that's my complaint with the Democratic Party. You hear what I'm saying? Every time there's a fight, what did you call it? The fight, or you had a phrase that team fight or team cave. To me, my whole life, JB, it's been team cave, one Democrat after another. So here's what I want you to hear from you right now. If you run for president, which I just so you know, I assume you are going to run for president, even if you're not going to announce it on my show. Are you going to cave, JB, or are you going to fight?
I hope you've seen that as governor. Number one, I'm not beholden to any special interests. So there's no like outside force that's trying to pull me away from the fight that I've been. Listen, I've fought time and time again to make sure that we're doing the things that everyday people in Illinois haven't had done for them in a very long time. We had not raised the minimum wage in Illinois for like 15 years. When I took off, maybe it was 10 or 12 years, but when I took office, and you can't live on $8.25, let alone the federal minimum wage, $7.25. He certainly can't live on that. And it was the first thing I signed when I came into office. And that's fighting for people. What about taking on the insurance companies the way I did both the health insurance companies, so that they would not make you seek prior authorization when you're having a mental health crisis? My God, we've stopped that. I took on the homeowners insurance industry when they wanted to raise people's homeowners insurance 27% in a single year. And the same thing on the auto insurance front. But I mean, taking on the big corporations, those are fights, by the way, because guess what? Those folks have a lot of money, and they give money to legislators in the hopes that those legislators will do, what those big special interests want them to do. And I honestly have not capitulated to any of that. And I've done what I thought was right. And they have been fights. There are, I know people look at me and sometimes think like, oh, I don't seem like a guy who's picking fights with people. But look at the things that I've done and that were not done before. How about the ban on assault weapons? We had majorities, Democratic majorities for years, and Democratic governors, and we never passed an assault weapons ban. We did that under me. And by the way, I had to twist a lot of arms, hate to say that, in the Democratic Party to make sure that bill got through. So I'm just saying, like, I really believe, as in this idea that is who we should be as a party, that we're fighting for people who many times can't fight for themselves. That's who we are. That's like our fundamental set of values. That's who I am anyway. So that's how I would define myself. I also, last part of this is just, I know that people, think, well, like, a wealthy guy can't possibly believe in fill in the blank progressive values, right? The things that I have that I ran on. Right? I remember that there were people who said, I'm not voting for that guy because he's probably a Republican in sheep's clothing or whatever. And I hope you and others have seen that. No, I got in office, and guess what? I did almost everything, including trying to tax myself at a higher rate, and wealthy people at a higher rate, and lower taxes for people who are in the middle class and working class. And, we got a child tax credit passed. We've protected the earned income tax credit. We lowered taxes on small businesses. I mean, these are all things that are like democratic values and things that I really believe in. Bruce Rauner, I hate to bring up a sore subject on everybody because he was devastating to so many people in the state. But when I took office, He left 150,000 people that had applied for Medicaid coverage, for people who are poor and no health care coverage. He didn't process their applications because he didn't want to have to pay the 50% of the cost. The federal government pays the other 50. The 50% of the cost to cover these people. Like, that's just cruel. And the Republican Party has gotten a lot more cruel since then. So, this fight is something I believe in. I'm going to continue to do here in Illinois. I think we got a lot more that we need to accomplish.